here's why I think Vrabel is going to win Coach of the Year. Because of the bandwagon aspect of the media and the voters. And I'm going to give an example of this.
Who's lighting the fuse?
Well, so let's go through kind of the storyline of this award of the season. We went through October and November, and the storyline was Bill Belichick was going to win Coach of the Year, right? And then they fell off, and then it moved around a bit. It moved around to, okay, well, Bill Belichick's not going to win Coach of the Year. Matt LaFleur is going to win Coach of the Year. Last week, and really the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden Joe Burrow has caught fire, and Zach Taylor's going to win Coach of the Year. I believe the Titans, when they lock up home field advantage in the number 1 overall seed this week, Vrabel's going to start getting much more mentions for Coach of the Year because the people are going to realize what they did without Henry and the fact that Henry's back. And then they dive in a little bit more with what they did without a number of players throughout the season. I think Vrabel's going to win it right at the end because he's going to have the number 1 team in the AFC despite playing, 88 different players throughout the season, a record number of players. Paul, I don't know if you agree, but I think that momentum and the way that this thing swings every other week, I think at the end, Vrabel's going to get all the attention.
I think it's entirely possible. I just, I don't know who lights the fuse for the attention, and how it swings. So, like you said, that Joe Burrow swung it towards Zach Taylor. So what happens in this game or in the storylines of this week that swings it towards Vrabel? I think there needs to be a little tinder for that.
But the thing that could swing it is you're going – when I say you, like
when you finally look at it on paper.
Everyone covering the league will be discussing the Tennessee Titans as the number 1 overall seed.
See, I think
– right? And that – they're not – the storyline this week is kind of – oh, look at the Titans. They're the worst number 1 seed we've ever seen. And look at the analytics. And I think once they actually lock it in, I think people are going to have to give them a bit more respect and acknowledgement for what they've accomplished.
See, I'll go the other way here. Well, they've got a little devil's advocate.
They've already burned the tinder on the worst number 1 seed. Right. They need another
Well, they
burned
the tinder on the worst number 1 seed, and so what will happen now is they're going to go right to wild card matchups, and they're going to skip right past the Titans being the number 1 seed.
Maybe
they're not going to discuss it.
I don't know how you don't look at this situation and not vote Vrabel.
I understand what you're saying, but isn't it possible what I'm saying? The Titans, NBC will put up the seed board, and Steve Karnacki's going to talk about the chances of look at what Cincinnati did to get the 3rd seed here, and look at how the Chargers got in with their low odds, and then they're going to start talking about the best first-round matchup. And the Titans aren't going to be talking about it at all.
Totally believable.
Maybe. But if
Peter King's column has a high item about the job that Vrabel did, that'll be big, or Albert Breer, or if Florio does something big on it. That's the kind of thing you're talking about, because these guys and there's some women in there, they all follow, these guys have way too much power in terms of leading the tug of war or leading
it's not even just mentioning it. It's someone doing the homework
and laying out
the case. And then when you read through it and you see it,
you go, oh, yeah.
Oh, of course he's got to be coach of the year.
Why wouldn't I vote for Vrabel?
I mean, look at all the players that they went through and the fact that they won 11 or 12 games and they're number 1 in the AFC despite everything that they went through, losing their best player.
Get that 88 number up. Get how well they've done without Henry up on somebody's radar.
And Vrabel doesn't care about it, but he absolutely should.
No, this is
a huge
honor, and Titans fans will eat it up, and it would be big for him. I think he's the coach of the year. I think he deserves it. I think he should win it. I also believe that media members, like we said, that vote on these things tend to follow the pack.
Yes.
And the lovable darling is Cincinnati and Zach Taylor. Well, that to me is the biggest hindrance to Vrabel, is that for whatever reason, Everyone loves the Cincinnati story. They love Burrow. They love that. And I
understand that more
don't you
than
guys
LaFleur,
don't get
though.
the sense, Hutton, that media just doesn't like talking about the Titans. They bore them.
Yes.
It's one of those, like, I just wish they weren't good so we didn't have to talk about
They
them.
also tend to be a
It's
year
almost like
late.
they're angry that they have to talk about the Titans.
The LaFleur thing is a year late. Like, Stefanski was really good last year, but so was LaFleur. And now look at the 3-year. It'd be a 3-year award.
Yeah, then they're kind of lumping everything together by saying, look what the Packers were doing. They were pretty much a 500 team right before LaFleur got there.
And a little bit of
And
look how they salvaged the whole Aaron Rodgers offseason disaster. And once he showed up, the coach managed to tie the team together. And none of all of that offseason stuff had any bearing on their football performance whatsoever, which I do think is a very worthy coaching accomplishment. I mean, I think he has done a hell of a job with that. Think of the mess that Gutekunst and Rodgers had.
It's all fair.
LaFleur was outside of that doing the football coach thing. That's very good work. Doesn't make him the best, but it makes him very good.
It's all fair, and I'm not trying to be the homer sitting in Nashville looking at Vrabel and saying he's going to win because we're here. We just know the storyline here, and comparing this storyline. And by the way, we also pay attention to the rest of the league, and knowing the storyline here, which is so. Let's compare briefly. The storyline in Tampa is going into the postseason. People are listing off the wide receivers that Tom Brady is going to be throwing to. And those guys who you don't know are about to become household names. That's the description of the Titans wide receiving core right now. Julio Jones hasn't done anything. And A.J. Brown's been banged up. They've been throwing to Nick Westbrook-Akina and others. And then those others got hurt, and they had other guys step in. Meanwhile, Derrick Henry went down, and they got 2 guys off the street in Week 8, and they're still, since that point, the 4th best rushing offense in the National Football League. And their defense went from practically worst to a top 10 overall group. I don't know how you don't look at the situation and think the guy has coached his tail off, and this year he's truly deserving of the award compared to the others that are being considered. And also, Zach Taylor's a great story. I think what they've done in Cincy is awesome. I mean, outside of the month of December, this is the first year that they have won they've won a division game outside of the final month of the season when other teams are resting players. I mean, that's how remarkable the season's been. They've gone on the road and won a bunch of games early, and it set them up to win their own division. Great job by Taylor and the roster and getting everything going there. They're a really strong team. But they've also had the majority of their horses going throughout the season. And this team here hasn't.
And if you're one of the media members that doesn't want to put the Titans in a group that could win a Super Bowl or doesn't want to talk about them as a top contender, then you should vote for Mike Vrabel for Coach of the Year even more that they're in the number 1 spot. Because what you're saying is their team's not all that good.
And
yet they're the number 1
there.
seed. That's a great coaching job.
Am I way offline by saying to me it's a no-brainer? Or do you think that
I think the discussion is Zach Taylor to me.
I think you could cast a vote for Taylor and not be unreasonable.
Yeah.
But with
there's
LaFleur,
an argument to be had for him.
LaFleur or
I think
Vrabel.
LaFleur is more of a 3-year vote, and I don't understand why people like. I think the people who have trouble making it a 1-year award, I don't really understand. So LaFleur's Coach of the Year for maintaining exactly what they did last year.
And right or wrong, I see Aaron Rodgers as the head of that team.
Yeah, he's going to win MVP. That's
right.
I mean, it's but
I
just
think
even
LaFleur's done a hell of a job. But
yeah, but it's to me that's Aaron Rodgers' offense. Even it's like being Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator. Well, what does that mean?
But that's one of my predictions for Monday. Black Monday, we're going to be discussing a lot of coaching changes, and then I think the media is going to jump on board with Vrabel as long as the Titans go to Houston and win.